I think that the chances for this are much higher in Japan than they are in the West. And I am here, as I was 10 years ago, to again ask for your help and your support. So do the good work of doing this. Please help teach me, help teach the West what we need to learn in terms of these principles to carry software forward. And we can check again in another 10 years where we are at. どうもありがとうございます。Thank you very much.
はい、どうもありがとうございました。大変深い話で僕も聞いてしまって、なんか感想が出ないです。深いと思ってですね、入り込んでしまったんですけれども、せっかくなので、時間は来てますけれども、3つだけ質問を取ります。1人1個厳選でね。はい。
Okay, three?
Question.
Oh, three questions? Okay.
日本語でもいいですか？日本語でも結構です。ヘルプできると思います。
はい。
I have a question about human mental model.
Yes.
I think mental model differs from me and you and another people. メンタルモデルは人によって異なるかもしれません。
Mental model he's talking about. Mental models are different from each other. I mean, your mental model, my mental model, others' mental model.
Well, I guess, so thank you for your question. The question is does everyone have the same mental model? This is a classic question in philosophy, of course. I mean, when I see the color green, am I seeing the same thing that you see? It kind of doesn't matter because there's enough in common that we seem to be able to talk about this without getting lost or about getting confused. When I say the photographer has a green jacket, then you will probably agree because you are a man. Women have 400 different terms for colors and they might come with something. But, so I think even if there are differences in the mental model, it doesn't matter because it doesn't show up at the level of our discussion or reflecting them in the code. And there's a lot of research that has been done by people called usability or user experience people, and they have very good tools for exploring the mental model of end users. There's a wonderful book called Contextual Design by Bayard and Holtzblatt with lots and lots and lots of tools for taking these mental models into code. Larry Constantine, who was the founder of data flow diagrams and structured analysis, went back to college and got a degree in psychology. He's a psychologist. And he is now talking about user experience and building wonderful interfaces based on these principles from psychology. Another area, another thing I could have talked about is everyone should have a user experience expert on your team. Just because you use a graphical user interface, that does not make you a user experience expert. Software design is psychology, not engineering. It is psychology. And so we need more trained psychologists on our staff to get these mental models. Now this is a science and it is very well proven. And so I take your point, but these are variations that user experience people know how to deal with. And the philosophical ones, well, this is a fun philosophical discussion over sake, but it kind of doesn't matter. But it's a good thing to think about. Always be a little bit doubting, right? Do I have the right model? You challenge yourself. It's a good question always to ask yourself. Thank you. You're a psychologist?
ラリー・コンスタンティンが最近ユーザーエクスペリエンスのところにも回ってるんですね。テストモードの教師の話を始めた人が今心理学の学位を取ってそっちの方に行ってるというのをちょっと聞いたニュースですね。すごい面白いんです。はい、じゃあ次の人。はい。
今 そのメンタルモデルが違っていても、
You think that even though mental model is different,
その差し支えないレベルで
it doesn't matter if you can communicate.
コミュニケートできるっていう話をされたんですけど、例えば会社のシステム、会社の中で作るシステ
You're
ム
making an
使うシステム
enterprise
を
system,
作ってたんですけど、
designing.
そういう時にはその部署によって
In that case,
そのメンタルモデルが違っていることが必要。
divisions
そ
of
の違いから
company, they have their
共
own
通する
different
部分も大事なんですけど、違っているっていう部分が
but they need some
大事で、
common.
Oh,
だ
yes.
からそういう時は一つの会社の中にモデルっていうのが複数
In that case,
あるべき
you're
あるも
saying
のだ
that
と思うんですね。
you should have different models for each
Oh,
division
I
or
totally agree. Yes.
でそれをただそうあるべきだということは分かっていても、
should it?
あるシステムを作るときにいくつあるのか、どこで分けるのかっていうことがすごく難しくて、何かアドバイスいただけないか。
Oh, yeah. I think I understand
Yes, yes.
the question. Yeah, I totally agree. Let me give a concrete example. So I use the example of banking. So is savings account an object? How many of you think savings account is an object? So here I can go into the bank and I can go into the safe, and on a shelf somewhere there's a bag of money with my name on it that is the object? No, in a bank, a savings account is not an object. But in fact, a savings account does not exist. A savings account is a computation that adds up all the deposits and subtracts all the withdrawals and says that is your balance. That is what a savings account is. Your mental model is that it's an object and that there is a nice bag of money sitting in a bank somewhere. However, everyone who has a savings account is likely to have that mental model because that's what works. Form follows function. And the function of a savings account is a place to put money and to gain interest and to withdraw it on an infrequent basis. And the form follows that. And the form is going to be common. And user experience people have found this. However, if I'm an actuary in the bank, an accountant, my model is completely different because my function is different. They have a different mental model. Same objects, different roles. DCI can do this. Object orientation, as you learned it, cannot. We've actually implemented this one in DCI. Real code, running code. So DCI exists to solve exactly that problem of having different views of the function in the same way that model view controller solves the problem of having different views of data. The usual one is I have a bar graph and a line graph and a pie chart. It's all the same data, but it is three different views. But those are all valid mental models that user experience people can elicit. That they are different doesn't mean you cannot find them. And user experience people are very good at finding these. But yes, of course they're going to be different for different people. And that's okay. Okay? There's actually a deeper issue here, I know. And we're back into the philosophy discussion. And you're asking, do all people who have a savings account think of it as a bag of money? And you're asking the enterprise question. I have all my departments. How do I get them to communicate? How does Toyota do it? How does Toyota get people to communicate who are putting parts together? Do they use Kanban? No, Kanban destroys communication. You have everybody working at one U-shaped table. Cross-functional team. That's what Scrum is. This is why everybody in Scrum sits in one room. Your developers and testers should be working on requirements with the analysts. You do not do Kanban. You do not create stovepipes. Cross-functional team, like in the Toyota production system. And now we'll converge on a